This is the story of those who find the biggest truth of their life inside an envelope. It is the story of a father who watched his son from afar for 43 years, and one day that same son wrote the verdict of his life. It is the story of people who stay silent, but whose silence carries a force strong enough to shake the world. Now listen, a journey that begins with an envelope and ends in the depths of love hidden in the heart. The Unopened Envelope. The story begins. The envelope hit the floor, and its sound woke the entire house. Eli Turner was on his knees under Mrs. Henderson's kitchen sink, wrestling with a rusted pipe that had been leaking since the Clinton years. The mail slot squeaked open, and the thick, cream-colored packet slid through, skidding across the cracked linoleum until it stopped against Eli's boot. He didn't notice it at first. His knees ached, his hands were tired, and he figured it was just another overdue notice from the bank that owned the other half of Turner & Sons Auto. But when he crawled out, wiping his hands on a rag that had long ago forgotten it was red, the return address stopped him cold. Law Offices of Carrington and Sterling 1 Buckhead Plaza, Suite 2900 Atlanta, Georgia 30327. The paper was thick, expensive, the kind where one sheet cost more than an hour of his labor. His grease-stained fingers left smudges on the edges. He turned it over. Urgent. DNA results stamped in red ink. Eli sat right there on the floor, back against the cabinets, and stared at it for a long time. The radiator hissed behind him as if it knew something he didn't. He was remembering the time he was 22, when Delilah Monroe walked into his life. She was 19, a sophomore at Payne College, carrying books and dreams in equal measure. He was elbow-deep in carburetors at his father's garage on Broad Street, saving for a future that never quite arrived. They met at the Soul Food Kitchen on Laney Walker Boulevard. She ordered peach cobbler. He offered to pay the bill. She laughed and said he couldn't afford her, but she let him walk her home anyway. 3 months later, she found out she was going to be a mother. Eli wanted to marry her. He had $800 saved, a '76 Impala with a hole in the muffler, and a plan: fix cars by day, go to tech school by night, give the baby his name. But Delilah's father was Reverend Monroe, and he had different plans. He sat Eli down in the church office, Bible open, and laid it out straight. The boy wasn't ready. Delilah was going to Spelman, and the baby was going to people who could give it what a mechanic's son never could. Eli fought. He begged. He stood outside her dorm with a cardboard sign that read, "I'll work 3 jobs." But Delilah cried and said she couldn't ruin his life. "Let them take him," she whispered. "Please." On June 12, 1980, the baby was gone. A closed adoption. Eli never held him. Never saw his face. Just one Polaroid the social worker let him keep, a red-faced newborn with his ears and Delilah's mouth. He named the boy Malachi in his heart. The Carringtons named him Preston James Carrington IV. For 43 years, Eli kept that Polaroid in his wallet until the colors faded to ghosts. Then he built a wall. Every summer, he drove to Atlanta on some flimsy excuse, parts run, cousin's wedding, and parked outside the Carrington estate in Buckhead. He watched from the street as a boy with his walk learned to ride a bike, shoot hoops, drive a BMW at 16. He took pictures. Never close enough to get caught. Just proof the boy was alive. Proof he was his. There was Preston at 5 in a seersucker suit at Easter, holding a chocolate bunny bigger than his head. At 8 on the first day of Levet School, Blazer swallowing him whole, smiling like the world was already his. At 12 in the Home Depot parking lot, changing a tire on his mother's Mercedes because Eli had been the one to fix it. The boy called him Mr. Eli. They kept that up for 6 years. At 15, Preston started sneaking out to the garage after midnight to rebuild a carburetor on his friend's Mustang. He said Eli was better than YouTube. Eli laughed so hard he cried in the bathroom later. Every photo went up on the wall behind the workbench. A shrine. A confession. A crime. When Preston turned 18, Eli wrote him a letter. 10 pages, grease-stained and heartfelt. He wrote that he knew every scar on his left knee from a bike crash at 7. Knew he hated peas but loved peach cobbler. Knew he hummed "He Ain't No Mountain High Enough" when he was nervous. He said he was his father, not the one who paid for Princeton, but the one who taught him to get a spark plug with a dime. He wasn't asking for anything. Just wanted the boy to know his roots ran deeper than Buckhead. There was a grandmother in Augusta who made sweet potato pie that could make a grown man speak in tongues. He drove to Princeton with the letter in his glove box. Sat outside the dorm for 3 hours. Watched Preston walk out with a red-haired girl, laughing just like Delilah used to. Eli tore the letter into confetti and let it fly out the window on I-20. The years rolled on. The garage kept running. Arthritis crept into his hands. The wall of Polaroids grew dusty but never empty. Eli restored classic cars for rich folks who wanted a vintage vibes and paid in cash. He went to church sometimes, sat in the back, sang off-key. He didn't pray much. Figured God had bigger problems. Then January came, cold and sharp. A kid walked into the garage, college sophomore, Morehouse baseball cap, nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Said his name was Jamal Carrington. Preston's son. Eli's grandson. He had a 23andMe kit in his backpack. Said his dad wouldn't take it, called it unnecessary. But he'd found an old photo in his grandma's attic, Eli teaching Preston to weld. He wanted the truth. Eli looked at the boy. Same ears. Same mouth. Same stubborn cowlick. He spat in the tube. Mailed it himself. The envelope came in March. Sat on his kitchen table for 3 days. He cooked collards. Watched Sanford and Son. Slept with it under his pillow like a kid waiting for the tooth fairy. On the 4th morning, he opened it. He laughed until he cried. Cried until he laughed. Then he called Delilah. It was their first conversation in 20 years. She was 63 now, divorced, teaching 3rd grade in Savannah. He told her. She whispered, "Does he know?" He said not yet. She asked if he would tell him. He said he didn't know how. April brought confrontation. Jamal showed up at the garage on a Saturday, Preston trailing behind like a man walking to his own grave. Preston was 43. Tall. Grey at the temples. Suit that cost more than Eli's truck. He looked like a stranger wearing Eli's face. Jamal told his dad to tell him. Preston called it a mistake. A scam. Eli pulled the DNA printout from his Bible. Handed it over. Preston read it. Face went grey. Then red. Then grey again. He said Eli knew all this time. Eli said every damn day. Preston asked why he never said anything. Eli said Delilah begged him not to ruin the boy's life, and he was young and foolish and thought love meant letting go. Jamal looked between them and asked what now. Preston crumpled the paper and said now nothing. This changes nothing. He walked out. Jamal followed, apologizing with his eyes. Silence followed. 3 months of it. Eli kept the wall of Polaroids. Added a new one, Jamal and him in front of the garage, arms around each other, grinning like fools. Mrs. Henderson brought peach cobbler every Sunday and told him to stop moping. That boy's got his blood, and blood doesn't lie. Eli started going to church again. Sat in the back. Sang the hymns off key. Prayed for the first time in decades. August brought an invitation. Thick cardstock. Gold foil. Mr. and Mrs. Franklin Carrington requested the honour of his presence at the marriage of their son Preston James Carrington for to Miss Evelyn Grace Whitmore. Augusta National Golf Club. No +1. No mention of him. Eli laughed so hard he scared the cat. He called Delilah. Said he was going. She asked if he was sure. He said he'd been invisible for 43 years. Time to make some noise. The wedding was a dream in green and white. Valets in bow ties. Champagne fountains. Women in hats bigger than satellite dishes. Eli wore his Sunday suit, the one he buried his father in. Shined his shoes until he could see his face in them. He walked in like he belonged. Found his seat in the back row, near the kitchen. Perfect. The string quartet played Pachelbel. Evelyn floated down the aisle in a dress that cost more than his house. Preston stood at the altar, stiff as a carburetor bolt. When the minister asked if anyone had reason these two should not be joined, Eli stood. Heads turned. Gasps. Phones came out. Preston's face went white. Eli smiled and said he just wanted to say his son was marrying up. Told Evelyn to take care of him, that he was stubborn but had a good heart. Then he looked at Preston and said he was proud of him. Always was. Then he sat down. The minister cleared his throat and continued. Eli wasn't invited to the reception. He crashed it anyway. Found Preston at the bar, 3 whiskeys in. Preston said he came. Eli said he told him he would. Preston said he hated him. Eli said he knew. Preston said he hated that he needed him. Eli said he knew that too. Preston looked up, eyes wet, and said Jamal told him Eli taught him to weld. Eli said the kid had steady hands, like his granddad. Preston laughed. A real laugh. The first Eli had heard from him in 43 years. He tried the word dad, like testing a new tool. Asked if they could start over. Eli clapped him on the shoulder and said they never stopped. September came. Eli took the Polaroids down. One by one. Replaced them with new ones. Preston and him at the garage, rebuilding the Impala's engine. Jamal's first home run at Morehouse. Evelyn's face when Eli fixed her Mercedes in 20 minutes flat. Delilah and him at the soul food kitchen, splitting peach cobbler like it was 1979. October brought a letter. Eli wrote it on garage stationery, grease stains and all. Told Malachi, Preston now, that names don't change blood. Said he wasn't asking for Father's Day cards or Christmas dinners. Just wanted him to know his story was bigger than Buckhead. Had a grandmother who'd stuff him with cornbread till he burst. A cousin who thought he hung the moon. And a father who never stopped loving him, even when he was too scared to say it. Said the garage was open every Saturday. Coffee was free. Carburetors optional. Told him to bring Evelyn. She was family now. Today the envelope sits in a frame above the workbench. Next to it, a photo from last week. Eli, Preston, Jamal, Delilah, and Evelyn crammed into a booth at the Soul Food Kitchen. Peach cobbler for 5. Grins bigger than Georgia. Underneath, in Sharpie, family ain't just who raises you. It's who shows up when the truth finally does. Eli is 68 now. Hands hurt. Back aches. But every morning he opens the garage, brews coffee, and waits. Some days it's just Mrs. Henderson with her radiator. Some days it's a stranger needing an oil change. And some days, the best days, it's a black BMW pulling up, Preston in the driver's seat, Jamal in the back, yelling for Grandad and the welder. Eli smiles, wipes his hands on a rag that's more grease than cloth. Says he's always got it. Always. The garage smells like motor oil, coffee, and second chances. The wall is full again. Not with secrets this time. With truth. With family. With a life that started with an unopened envelope and ended with a full heart. And every night, when he locks up, Eli looks at that framed envelope and the photo beside it. He doesn't say much. Just nods, like a man who finally understands that some doors stay closed until you find the courage to knock. And when they open, you walk through. Grease and all.